So we start officially the session. Do we have the permission to share your presentation on the website of the CBRN Master Course and on our social network and through the official YouTube channel of the Master?
Yes, no, everything will be okay, I think.
Okay.
No problem.
So, welcome everybody. This is the third call of Thesis discussion for the first level master course, the base level for first responders in protection against CBRN events, started in the academic year 2018-2019. And we have our candidate, Captain Hojun Kwnon, that will discuss his thesis, followed by Dr. Marco Carbonelli, Dr. Gaetano Carminati as supervisor. He will present his work. Mr. Kwnon will leave you the floor. I kindly ask all the members of the commission to let the camera turn on and the microphone turn off, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being with me for the presentation. And I don't know whether you can see my screen right now.
Not yet.
Not yet. Do I have to?
You have to click on the
tray.
On the tray with the arrow that goes inside the tray.
Okay,
Close the red button.
Yes.
And you have to option the entire desk sharing. So the first option on the left. Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
Now it works.
Okay, now it is working, and you should return on also the camera, please.
Okay. But they say that if I just turn on this one, then I cannot turn on this video. I don't know what is the problem. I need to.
Don't worry. Just leave the presentation and your voice, and when you will finish the presentation, you will turn on the camera for the questions. Okay?
Yes, but I don't know why. Because
don't worry.
Last time,
Don't worry. It's fine. You can do even in that way. Okay? Just put it in the full screen modality, and you can start.
Okay, sorry, just let me check. Because I wanted to do with the face, in fact, but
okay.
I think it doesn't work well.
Take your time, don't worry. If you want, I can share your presentation and I turn the slides for you and you can show the face, okay?
But because I have a lot of animations, so I need to control by myself.
Okay.
Then I think I need to do just on this way.
Okay.
There is no option, I think. Okay, so I will just. Can you see this screen, please?
Yes, we have the full screen actually. So you are ready to go.
So now it's okay, right? It works well.
Yeah, yes, absolutely, yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna start. So good afternoon, guys. I'm Hojun Kwnon, captain from the Republic of Korea. I would like to start by thanking all of you staying here with me. It has been an honor to be here in Italy, the most beautiful country in the world, with the most informative and useful course and the best colleagues. I have experienced many things and I could open my eyes and expand it. And today, I want to give you the presentation of my thesis, which is about the WMD Terrorism Response System in the Republic of Korea and Italy. So this is the table of contents from the top to bottom, from the introduction to the conclusion. The objective of this study is to improve and develop the WMD response system in Korea. So for this, potential WMD threats in Korea and Italy and their response systems were analyzed and compared on this presentation and paper. And finally, the current issue of Korea system was suggested, as well as the future direction improvements. For this study, the system of Korea and Italy were chosen to be analyzed in a comparative perspective with the manner of literature research. So the information of the paper were gathered from the terrorism relevant and WMD relevant laws or thesis, conference proceedings, meeting documents of the EU and NATO, and other relevant documents. Then let's start with the terrorism. What is the terrorism? It is well distributed vocabulary, and as soon as we hear about this word, then we can imagine some ideas of terrorism like this. But what is it exactly? The problem is that it has always been hard to define. There are many different definitions of terrorism by various institutions and various scholars. About this, there is a famous saying by Kwnon that one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, which means depending on the perspective, depending on the view, the definition would be different. This shows the difficulties to find the consensus. Even though there was no consensus on this word terrorism, it has been tried to find the common sense of it. So among them, there was a research by Schmidt and Jungmann. They analyzed 109 definitions of terrorism and came up with 22 most frequently used terms. And the 6 most used are respectively based on the order of the percentage is violence, 83%, political, fear, threat, psychological effect and reaction, and victim. Through this way, at least, we can understand the common factors which make up the diverse and huge amount of definitions. And there is another word, new terrorism, just putting new, because there are some new apparent trends and changes on it compared to the existing concept of the old terrorism, such as the indiscriminate violence and organizational structure change, new technology for the better communication, and weapons of mass destruction. The acronym is WMD. And there is no clear line that distinguishes between new and old terrorism. However, many scholars point out that new terrorism started from the bombing of the World Trade Center in New York in 1993, as well as the sarin gas attack in 1995. Among those figures, on this presentation, we will focus on the 4th, weapons of mass destruction. Then what is it? Just literally weapons of mass destruction, and they are defined as the weapons that are capable of causing some mass casualties, such as just killing or bringing significant harm to a large number of humans or animals, structures, natures, kind of this one. And according to Karos, and WMD also can be defined in diverse way. And for the purpose of this paper, in describing WMD terrorism, it will be considered synonymous as chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear weapons, as we are knowing as CBRN. So from now on, WMD terrorism is CBRN here. Then why WMD can be used by terrorists? According to Deru, there are some benefits that drive terrorists to deploy those kind of means. First, highly lethal while being silent killers. Also, they can drag attention and receive the prime time coverage in mass media. They can provoke the panic as well as the economic damage. Also, they can give the strategic pressure just having itself, because it can give them the pressure on government and the authorities. Moreover, there are some huge changes recently, kind of new technologies, scientific breakthroughs, and information access. And there are emerging technologies that are related to WMD terrorism, which are presented by the governements, such as the drones that can be used as a means of terrorism with high-end hardware, such as long-lasting batteries, high precision of GPS, and remote control, and so on. The dark web that can be the means for obtaining the materials or equipment illegally as kind of the black market. And the malware that can disturb the CBRN facilities, and synthetic biology, and the 3D painting that can also produce the complex shape just by having the only blueprint. So to sum up, the threat is growing. Then by whom? Who can take this advantage of development? Who can use the threats? And the terrorist can be carried out. The modern terrorism can be carried out by various actors. And this presentation has classified it into 3 separate types, depending on the terrorism actors, which are North Korean terrorism, international terrorism, and homegrown terrorism. And all of them have the capability to cause the WMD terrorism in any form, in any way, in any time. About this one, there is a remark by UN Secretary General that terrorism is a persistent and evolving global menace. So no country is immune. As he said, since the external threat is changing and growing, every country has to change and improve its own system to respond to the WMD terrorism properly. And among them, as I suggested before, Korea and Italy were chosen and analyzed. So let's figure out about Korea. So after the terrorist attacks in Paris in 2015, there was a growing voice that Korea should respond by establishing the counterterrorism system, and we enacted the anti-terrorist legislation in 2016. And finally, the WMD terrorism system was changed and we could set up in a general way. So the major points are: the first, the police-led response mechanism. The police was designated and assigned to fulfill their duties as the competent authority and to command and lead the related agencies. And the Counter WMD Terrorism Support Center is established and operated to provide and assist professional manpower and equipment to the police. And the third, about the military input, they can intervene to support the police only on request. And among them, the ROC CBR Defense Command was designated as the special forces for the WMD terrorism officially. So this slide shows the organization chart. It's a little bit complicated, but I will do this step by step. So first of all, at the top left box, there are 5 different headquarters. And this means depending on where it happens, where the terrorism happens, it is established by the different subject. Okay, let's take some example. So for instance, if something happens in military, then the response is led by the Ministry of Defense. Then how about the WMD terrorism? Normally it is, so mainly it belongs to the domestic one, which is led by the National Police Agency. Second, let's look at this red box. So the police, in case of WMD terrorism, establishes the countermeasure headquarters, field command center, and initial counteraction team at each level, strategical level, tactical level, and operational level from the top to bottom. and take action at each level of response. And third, this police is supported by the support center, which is established by related agencies, such as the Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Health and Welfare, and Nuclear Safety and Security Commission, depending on the case, chemical case, biological case, and radiological nuclear case, these three types. And looking at the first response, it is managed by the initial counteraction team, as I told you, covered by the police. So it is commanded by the police at local level and supported by the related agencies. So at the first scene, it is mainly responded by the fire agency and police. And if needed, military can intervene on request by police. And as soon as the type is confirmed between chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, then the support team can be formed and intervene to support the police. So to summarize the major points of the Korean system, the ROC utilized a police-led mechanism, and it allows the establishment of command system. And the related agencies set up the support center to assist the police-led headquarters. And the support from the institutions with expertise and related response equipment is possible and could be efficient. However, also at the same time, there are some shortcomings. For instance, the integrated manual is insufficient, and those specialized institutions play a secondary response role from the structure point of view, because they no more intervene after the confirmation of type of terrorism, chemical terrorism, biological or radiological and nuclear. Because of this structure, it needs more and additional cooperation and efforts, because many bodies are related and it is different depending on the case. And also there are the consultative bodies at central and local level. However, those bodies are evaluated being focused on the countering some more general terrorism, kind of explosive or firearm terrorism, not WMD centered, which leads the lack of the discussion on WMD issues. About the military input, the Armed Force CBR Defense Command under the Ministry of National Defense is officially designated as a special force for WMD terrorism. And as a regional CBRN unit, there is a CRRT, CBRN Rapid Response Team in the military. So if it occurs, the terrorism occurs outside of military facility, then they shall intervene, use their specialized equipment. But also there is a limitation on the quick intervention, because they can do this only on request. So let's move on to Italy's system. The Italian response system is divided into two mechanisms, basically civil protection and civil defense. And the former deals with an emergency, such as the natural disasters and man-made events. On the other hand, the latter covers on the crisis stemming from the man-made intentional activities like criminal or terrorist activities. Since this paper deals with the WMD terrorism, so it will be described from the perspective of civil defense. So this slide shows the organization chart of civil defense. Under the presence of the council ministers, there is, at the political strategy level, there are two main bodies. Political Strategy Committee, which is called COPS, and Inter-Ministerial Group on Situation Planning, which is called NISP. The COPS deals with planning and national strategic guidance as the decision-making body. And NISP is responsible for supporting COPS, working as a consultative body, which means it ensures the coordination between the initiatives that promoted by the various ministries. Moreover, it liaises, which means it is connected to the international institutions such as NATO and EU. Second, at the tactical level, the Ministry of Interior takes the main role, managing it through specific frameworks, both at central and local level. From the central level, there are two bodies. First, Crisis Unit, and second, the Interministerial Technical Commission for Civil Defense. About the Crisis Unit, it focuses on the response to terrorist and criminal activities. So the chief of the police chairs this crisis unit. On the other end, the CITDC is the consultative body for the coordination of the central state administrations, and it supports the NISP. That's why I put as a yellow box both of them, because two of them are the consultative body at tactical and political level. And it is chaired by the head of the firefighters department and consists of representatives from the relative state administration. So in CITDC, they work periodically for exercise or meetings, and they are gathered together in case of terrorism. And secondly, there is a provincial level, and it is the Provincial Committee for Civil Defense. This is a core of local response, performing the management and coordination of the overall operations. At the operational level, several actors are involved, which are mainly fire brigade or law enforcement agencies such as police, carabinieri, or financial police, and also army or local health services and so on. So then let's summarize the major point in Italy's system. So first, it is the fire department-led response system. In Italy, the fire departments are responsible not only for on-site command, but also for specialized WMD response. When WMD response terrorism happens, the basic team, provincial team, and regional squad shall perform the relevant tasks. And those operational responses of the fire brigades are under the principle of subsidiary, which means if a provincial unit or basic team cannot deal with the situation due to the lack of the human or material resources, then the upper level, it could be a regional unit or it could be provincial unit, can be immediately activated and support them. Second, WMD response by the local unit at provincial level. It is mainly managed by the provincial committee. And the committee is staffed by our mayor involved, the president of the province, and other related institutions such as carabinieri, police, financial police, and army and fire brigade. Through this response system, institutions that are most familiar with the local situation and environment can take the lead, allowing a quick intervention through the prevention unit-oriented response. Moreover, the provincial civil defense plan is enacted by prefect, and they perform their role based on this plan. Third, the strengthening response system through EU and NATO. Italy can take the benefit at the same time and contribute to the international efforts as a member of EU and NATO to counter the WMD threats. And it has been able to establish a policy or legal basis for domestic preparedness, as well as operational plan, training based on the connection with them. Moreover, there is a system to receive the direct support from EU and from NATO, such as the European Emergency Response Capacity, and the NATO Combined Joint CBRN Defense Task Force. When they are requested, they can support directly. Fourth, the Italian military may contribute with the support. In particular, the 7th CBRN Defense Regiment, which is called Cremona, may provide a specialist support in case of the nationwide case. So let's look at this table that shows the comparison of the system. So in political strategic terms, both have the similar bodies to establish national policies. And there are consultative groups for cooperation between related bodies at the central level and regional level. In case of the central level, as I put the blue writing, both have the counterterrorism center and the interministerial group on situation and planning are permanent consultative bodies, and they derive the national policy consultations on terrorism. In Korea, the overall management is led by police, while in Italy by fire brigades. In Korea, there are special agencies to assist the police, while in Italy focused on the fire brigades capabilities. Comparing those two systems, it is evaluated that the Italy's one is relatively less complex and more concentrated on the first response because it is led by and operated by fire department, regardless of the distinction between CBRN and from the beginning to the end of the case. And both countries military intervene on request as a secondary support. So these are the suggestions in the ROC. And a first suggestion to improve the response system in Korea would be the establishment of the consultative body. As the current consultative bodies deal with the wide range of fields such as explosive and firearms, not WMD centered, this new consultative body for only WMD terrorism would be needed for the better cooperation between related institutions. And this is an example of WMD response consultative body, showing that this body is composed of the only related bodies. And a second suggestion would be the integrated manual between WMD related agencies. In Korea, it is evaluated that the manuals are drawn up for each institution separately, only focusing on each duty and ability. In this manner, the integration between agencies can be limited and not that consistent. So it would be proper to work on the top-down approach in terms of establishing manuals as it has been done in Italy by prefect. So namely, the department in charge would first present at the top level, kind of general response plan, and then after that, each institution as a bottom level would draw up the additional detailed action procedures. And a third suggestion would be the establishment of regular foundations that enable the military force to deploy immediately, at least in the context of WMD terrorism, considering this reality, kind of that North Korean terrorism threat is still high in any place in Korea, and it is expected to exceed the responsibility considering the WMD characteristics. And also it is expected to take more time for the support centers to intervene. And also military itself, it has the specialized equipment, which could be efficient for the first response. So the input of military will be needed in the case of WMD terrorism. And officially, the upper one is only designated, but the CBRN rapid response team might be also proper alternatives. The last suggestion would be the advanced cooperation with ambiguous boundaries. In Korea, since the response system varies depending on the location of the terrorism, some scenarios in the case of area with ambiguous borders should be prepared, as it can cause the confusion and disruption. Moreover, the WMD terrorism in different places should be considered at the same time. And those discussions shall be performed through the consultative bodies. So let's jump into the conclusion. So based on the literature on WMD response system, this work concludes that despite the development of the ROC system through the creation of the Anti-Terrorism Act, there is still room for improvements with the development of the consultative groups, integrated manual, and military input, and the need of the prior consultation. So as the external WMD threat is changing and growing, the continuous efforts are required for an integrated and effective response to protect public and properties. Thanks for your attention. If you have any question, feel free to ask me and I will do my best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hojun. Just wait a second. Leave the last slide. Okay. 1 second. And put again the first slide, please. Thank you so much. Now you can turn off the sharing of the screen and you can turn on the camera.
Okay.
I kindly ask to the commission members to turn on the microphone, please. So Dr. 40, okay, yes. Dr. Simone is without microphone, but if you want to do some question, Dr. Simone, you can type the question on the chat and I will read it or some comment as well, and I will read it to the candidate. Now I kindly ask to Dr. 40 or Moramarco Russo if you have some question for the candidate.
No, everything is clear.
Okay.
No question.
Womba?
No question. Just a comment. It's really good to see the work made by Hojun in our country, and we see that after 2 years in Italy, he is now an expert about our system of response.
Thank you so much.
Very well done.
It was an honor. I will come back here again in the future. Okay.
Okay.
Hojun, I have just one question. In
Yes.
your opinion, according to your professional experience and also academic experience as well,
yeah.
How do you think that is the feeling of the population versus the terrorism? I mean, do you think that the people are scared by the terrorism or they simply do not care? Do you think that the situation in Italy is different rather than South Korea? I would like some comment from you from this point of view.
So as a foreigner, just if I look at and here, then the perspective from mine, right?
Yeah.
To Italy.
Your point of view.
So from Korea or from Italy?
Both.
Both.
The idea that you have done about the Korean and Italian situation on the feeling of the population versus the terrorism.
So, in my opinion, in Italy, the population are thinking more about terrorism because the real terrorism is happening in European countries because of some homegrown terrorism or some other as foreigners, people who are discriminated by some the cultures that they were belong to. So people are aware of the terrorism, in fact, here, and they know that every time it can happen. So that's why a lot of some touristic places where the people are crowded, then there are always police officers and the military officers and military soldiers or carabinieri here in Italy. In Korea, so far, it has not been the big terrorism, not that much. So people now they just started to aware of these dangers after looking at the cases from the Europe. So I hope people are aware of this so that some government authorities can do more efforts based on the support of the population in the future in Korea as well.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Now I will stop the registration. No. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the comment, Nicola. Concise, clear, well explanation. So you are receiving the greeting from Dr. Simone as well.
Yeah.
I will stop the registration now.